Just about falling over with dizziness and the shock and effects of the time rush, Gary Beck saw a wall and quickly reached out for it. Leaning didn't really help. His stomach felt like it was still spinning. He was sure about just one thing. He wasn't in Peg's office anymore. Other than that, he was taking things a second at a time. Gary breathed, leaning on a wall he wasn't entirely sure had been there before. I've been beamed once before, only it never felt quite like that. Gary's head reeled, and he closed his eyes. If they'd been opened, they would have been staring at each other, he thought, and probably from opposite sides of the room, which was not the one he remembered entering a few moments ago. He took a chance and opened them to look around. Yep, definitely not Peg's office. Wherever this was, it reminded him of a hospital, or maybe a science lab. Mr. Scrooby was still beside him, still calm and friendly. Anybody seen my stomach? Gary groaned. Then, remembering himself, he started to reach for his 10 mil. Please don't, Scrooby said quietly, in the way someone without a gun would be expected to address a man with a gun. What the hell just happened? Gary asked, his hand not quite on the weapon yet. Where are we? Simply put, he replied, that was a chronospatial transport, and you're now at the headquarters of the time-saving agency. You're speaking gibberish, Gary countered. Don't do that. I hate gibberish. I got an F for it at high school. Tell me that again in plain Terran, if you don't mind. You're not on Deanna anymore, Mr. Beck, Scrooby explained in a flat, dead calm tone. You're at the headquarters of the time-saving agency, and you're technically a man out of time. Actually, we all are here, except naturally for those among us who are in fact women. You mean time travel? Gary repeated slowly after the words had sunken in. Wait, I'm starting to hear gibberish again. You're in no danger here, Mr. Beck. In fact, we need your help. My help, huh? Gary asked, instantly switching into negotiator mode. Well, okay, that's different. Who are you after and what are you offering? Gary was getting tired of the Mr. Beck thing. It made him feel like he was talking to a bank manager about another loan. Money he could use, though. Then maybe he wouldn't feel like such a deadbeat around May all the time. But Scrooby wasn't offering currency. It had no value here anyway, because any money inside the buffer had already been spent outside of it. Anyway, from his point of view, what he was offering was far more valuable than mere currency. As payment, I'm offering you a chance to change the future, Mr. Beck. Your future. Yours and Ms. Winters. You see, certain events have been set in motion, and only someone with the right foreknowledge will be able to prevent certain events from unfolding. That doesn't sound very profitable to me, Gary said, noticing that while he understood the words in that sentence, he had no clue what Scrooby was saying to him. That depends on what you value. Let's see, how about a chance to save Miss Winter's life? Perhaps not today nor tomorrow, but would that be worth something to you? A chill ran down Gary's spine, and he forcefully suppressed an urge to reach for that weapon again. What do you mean? He asked icily. That sounds like a threat, Mr. Scrooby. It is a threat, Mr. Beck, Scrooby continued calmly. Only I'm not the one doing the threatening. You see, something bad has just arrived on your world. Something... Scrooby seemed to be searching for a word Gary might understand better. Something evil. What was this man talking about? Evil? On Deanna? The most evil things Gary knew of on Deanna were the scumbags and numbskulls he got paid to round up, and they weren't much more threatening than an obsidian crow on a bad day. Even the gimp that landed on Deanna to start an invasion turned out to be less evil and more all right when he saved Jen and Danielle Gruffus from those mine men. Evil? What was this guy gibbering about? You know, Gary said, squinting at him a little, Mr. Scrooby, you're starting to look familiar. Weren't you the guy who ran into that other guy this morning at the Salubrious Cafe? Well spotted, Mr. Beck, Scrooby answered. It was. He was a time terrorist with orders to kill you. You needn't worry about him. He won't be bothering you again. Now why would he want to do that? Gary asked skeptically. Because his bosses knew you were about to play a pivotal role in history. Changing history is what they do. And stopping them and undoing the damage is what we do. It's a war, Mr. Beck, a war through time, and at some point, we all become soldiers in that war. Not me, mister. I hate marching. Gives me calluses, Gary said dismissively with barely a pause, eyeing this stranger that claimed to have dragged him through time. Scrooby just stood there, trying to be as persuasive as he could. Okay, so one good turn deserves another, eh? You saved my life this morning, and let's say for the moment I believe you. Why would you do that exactly? No gibberish this time, please. That's my job. I'm a time agent. You weren't supposed to die today. It wasn't supposed to happen. Will you let me explain? A time agent? Senior time agent, actually. Scrooby smiled. First class. The chill in Gary's spine was getting worse. He hated gibberish, and he hated long, complicated explanations. Something, if not this guy Scrooby and this TSA, was threatening his life and the life of someone he loved, and he wasn't having any of that. Okay, I'm listening, he said. Okay, so let me get this straight, said Gary Beck over a cup of frothy hot chocolate in the TSA canteen. You want me to help you capture this criminal mastermind of yours, this time terrorist, Scrooby said, helping. Brazil. Right. And you want us to bring him back here, wherever this place is? Scrooby smiled in that annoying way again. No, I want you to help me to find him. Then I'll deal with him. This Zeal must be a pretty bad piece of news. The very worst, Mr. Beck. He helped build the TSA. He invented the buffer everything. He knows how we operate. In fact, he practically wrote the book on all our procedures. Well, the original one, anyway. Then why'd he turn bad? Well, nobody knows for sure. Maybe he was never actually good. We just know that somehow he has escaped from the limbo practicale, Gary said, proud that he'd remembered. Yeah, what is that? Let's just say it's the new Alcatraz of your time, Scrooby explained patiently. They were, after all, in no danger of running out of time. Not here. He took a sip from his glass of Malkovian nectar. It was a purple color like mentholated spirits and had a sweet scent similar to honey, a green swizzle stick that looked like glass stuck out of the mass of bubbles on top. Gary resisted asking what time this was, really, because Scrooby had already explained the whole buffer thing to him several, non-minutes ago, in a way that made him realize Scrooby must have got an A+ for gibberish at high school, and was probably a professor in it by now. This was too much for him. He already had a splitting headache. I'm having a hard time believing all this shit about time travel, Mr. Scrooby. Nothing personal like. It's just that, I really don't have much of an imagination. Imagine that you have an imagination, Scrooby said nonchalantly, and it'll all fall into place. Imagine that I have an imagination. That was a novel concept. Okay, Gary said, finishing the last of his hot chocolate. He put the mug down and started gesturing slowly and expressively with his hands, his eyes at first closed and then opened. I'm imagining my imagination. Yeah, it's not working. Crap, he sighed. This all still sounds a lot like that gibberish you were talking earlier. Scrooby opened his mouth to speak again, but Gary interrupted. But the bit about May being in danger made perfect sense, though. That part I'll take at face value, if it's all true. It is, said Scrooby. Now, shall we go? We're running out of time, Gary suggested smugly, and then started laughing. Other TSA staff in the canteen area stared at them as if they were mad. Scrooby gave him a disapproving look. Jokes like that could prove fatal around here, Mr. Beck, Scrooby countered humorlessly. Hey, you call me Mr. Beck one more time, and you'll find out what fatal means, Gary jibed as they left the canteen.
Each day shapes the days that follow. The time-saving agency liked having fresh agents on the job who had a clear mind and steady hand. After all, time travel wasn't for the faint of heart. The pay was good enough, but as Johnathan Scrooby decided long ago, even if he didn't get paid for it, the thrill alone was payment enough. Then again, the TSA realized they couldn't afford to have disgruntled employees with the power of God at their fingertips, so the pay was very, very good indeed. Scrooby was extremely tense. His job at the time-saving agency was a tough one. Gazillions of lives depended on him not screwing up. Once, he'd screwed up in only a small way, and people wore those little yellow smiley faces on t-shirts for decades afterwards. And that was only a small screw-up. Things happened at a certain time in a certain way, which in a sense is what life was all about. If they didn't, then things would be completely different. Which was why, a week ago, the American War of Independence was fought in Mexico. Yesterday, Napoleon managed to dig a tunnel across the English Channel, invaded London, and everybody at the agency ended up speaking French for a while. Sorting that out had been, well, challenging, mon dieu. Something smelled funny in the annals of history. Things were not as they were supposed to be. Someone somewhere was tinkering with the works, and it was up to Time Agent Scrooby, with a little help, to go back and fix it, or who knew what might happen next. The Time-Saving Agency is Book 2 in the Quantum series by South African writer Christina Engela. Available now on Amazon in paperback, ebook, and as an audiobook narrated by Darla Middlebrook.
Fun and humor constantly, cosmic rhythm rhyme. Going quantum, going wild, living bold like a cosmic child. Laughs and thrills from time to time, in this space-time ride sublime.